Welcome to I'd Print That. I'm Joe, and this last week was another productive week for me. I actually did a live presentation and demo for the North Idaho Computer Users Group. This was my first actual public event. Went real well. Wound up printing some puzzle cubes, some just little three-piece puzzle cubes that I gave away to the members that night. And as a demo, I printed a 3D benchy, which actually turned out pretty decently. There was a couple of areas that looks like I could use some tweaking on my printer, but beyond that, actually turned out really well. Also in the last week, I've come up with a couple of new designs I'm going to start working on. One is a GoPro mount for the Meat Creator 2, and another being a tool holder. Another one that I came up with here, as I mentioned previously in the podcast, I am a network engineer by profession, and my company uses a lot of MikroTik routers. MikroTik is a router manufacturer out of Latvia. So we've been using their hardware, and for a lot of our customer end devices, we use the MikroTik 2011, and we've been using a little template where we've been, basically it was a photocopy of the bottom of the router, and we'd have to mark the place where the screws are going to go for little screw holes, put in the screws, and hopefully everything lined up right. Well, I have a 3D printer, and I figured, well, hey, why can't I just 3D print an actual mounting bracket? Something that can be screwed to the wall and then the MikroTik slides into. And I decided, what the heck, I'll give it a shot, and designed one up, and turned out really well. Looks real nice. I'll be posting that to Thingiverse here this next week. Got pretty much all the little quirks worked out of it, and looks pretty attractive. Takes only about 45 minutes to print, and does the job really, really well. Past that, as you get into 3D printing and making these designs, you're going to make bigger and bigger and bigger things, and you're going to want to, at times, finish them, make them look like they're more of an off-the-shelf item versus something that you just pulled straight off your print bed. That means getting rid of all the lines, maybe doing some painting. Here a couple weeks, actually about a month ago, I guess, Andrew and I talked about some D&D mini scenery sets. And in order to really paint them and get them to look nice, you'll want to do some finishing work on them. We've talked about using vapor smoothing in the past, which requires acetone and some form of low heat, because acetone, as we said, was volatile. But it got me to looking, is there anything better than that? What other ways can you assemble and finish a model and get it to the point where you can paint it and make it look professional? So I did some digging around, and Fictive has a guide to finishing 3D printed parts, but also if you are a fan of Mythbusters and Adam Savage, you know that he is part of Tested, and Norm, Frank, and Sean all sat down together here about 6 months ago, and they have a 20-minute video where they deal with the Fallout 4 mini nuke kit. And one thing that they cover is finishing. So it's both those are really good to check out. Good read on the Fictive guide, and also a great video on how the different techniques work. With vapor smoothing, you lose a lot of the fine details, whereas if you were to use something like Bondo filler primer or catalyzed filler primer, you can retain a lot of that detail. and still have a piece that is showroom quality. So as I'm progressing in my 3D printing, I'm wanting to build more and more things. I've got friends who are into tabletop role-playing. I haven't done tabletop role-playing in at least a couple years now, mostly because I don't have time for it, not because I don't want to. I enjoy tabletop role-playing, but they're really interested in 3D printed sceneries and minis and things like that. So I want to be able to print something out and hand to them something that is in a condition where they can just prime it and paint it. If you're interested, check those out. I will be looking at those. The stuff that I have read and gone through so far is great. I want to give a couple a try and see how it works. So hopefully in the next week or two, I'll be able to report back and say, hey, this worked for me, this didn't work for me, and here are the little issues that I come up with. Those are definitely a couple things to check out. They'll be linked from the blog on our website, I'dPrintThat.com. Moving on into news type things, we got quite a bit going on that happened this last week. But one of the real nifty things was police have asked a 3D printing lab to recreate a dead man's fingerprints to unlock his phone. Now, you may think that this is going to be a security issue, a huge breach of privacy, things like that, but follow along here. Bear with me for a moment. So while the investigation is ongoing and the details are limited, the gist of things is a man was murdered and the police think that there might be clues as to who murdered him stored on his phone. However, they cannot get access to the phone without either his fingerprint or passcode. Instead of asking the company that made the phone to grant them access, what they're going to do, or what they have done actually, is have a 3D printed replica of the victim's fingerprints in hopes to unlock the phone. Most fingerprint readers used on phones are captive, which means that they rely on the closing of tiny electrical circuits to work. So this means that the ridges of your fingers cause some of these circuits to come in contact with each other, generating an image of the fingerprint. While skin is conductive enough to close these circuits, normal 3D printed plastic is not. So this means that you can't just take a scan of your fingerprint or anybody else's fingerprint and transfer that into a 3D image, print that out, and then expect that to work anywhere. There's other things that need to be done. One way that they got around it with this is they took and coated the fake fingerprint in a fine dusting of metal powder. Whether that worked or not has yet to remain seen. Another issue that they may encounter is most modern phones that have fingerprint reader require a password if you have not used that fingerprint in over 48 hours. So they may be at a point right now where they cannot even get into that phone. It's just another security measure that's built in. That way, if something does happen, it prevents things like this from being used. It's an interesting article, and it's kind of a neat way to see how law enforcement agencies are trying to find clues, but it's also on the flip side of that same coin, interesting to see that this is technology that could also be used badly. So there really needs to be some checks and balances in place. Along those lines, this kind of moves more towards the medical industry. Belgian ophthalmologists have completed work on the world's first 3D printed eye prosthesis. New medical 3D printing applications seem to be developed every week. and there are still many fields in the healthcare industry that could benefit from custom 3D printed solutions. Belgian specialists at the Academic Hospital of the University of Leuven recently brought 3D printing to ophthalmology. They are developing the world's first 3D printed eye prosthesis for a 68-year-old male patient. The cost of the prosthesis is approximately $1,430 to make, and it is largely covered by the patient's insurance. Currently, all prosthetics need to be made by hand, and there's so little demand for them, there are usually only a few specialists in a single country who are capable of producing these prosthetics. There is so little demand that you cannot even find a course available to take for making eye prosthetics. This is something that you have to be taught from somebody who already knows the craft. You can't go to school for it, nothing like that. Now, Leuven is the only Belgian hospital to employ a full-time specialist, and they make only about 70 different prosthetics per year. It also includes a high level of artistic capabilities to make these, because every eye is different. So you can't just pull one off the shelf, cut it down to size, and then hand it to the person. If you want them to look natural, they have to be made by hand. If you're at all interested in how eye prosthetics are currently made, you can do a YouTube search for making prosthetic eyes, and you'll see the process. I saw this years ago on a program, How It's Made. I think they have one of those up on YouTube, though it'll be a little older video. You can just see what is required to make these. It's actually takes a fair amount of time to do. It's still a really fascinating process to go check out if you're at all curious about this type of stuff. I highly recommend it. It's pretty cool. I'm really interested to see how they plan on making this process work, what type of 3D printing. Obviously, they're not going to be using an FDM printer. They're probably going to be using like an SLA or SLS printer, and there's still going to have to be work done on the back end as far as painting, coloring, glazings, and things like that. But all in all, kind of neat. Besides 3D printing things, I want to talk a moment about some stuff that is happening on the TV front. Those of you who may not know of the comic book character The Tick, he had a short run as a live action series. I believe it was on Fox. It starred Patrick Warburton, which was my first introduction to him, and I became a real good fan of him. He kind of played the character The Tick really, really well. And Amazon recently announced that they're going to be bringing back the cult classic superhero comedy, but without the star Patrick Warburton. I was a little disappointed in seeing this. I think Patrick Warburton's bulk and delivery really helped the character. It's a little different than the animated series, but it was still funny and was very enjoyable. They have replaced Patrick Warburton with Peter Serafinowicz. Amazon has recently released images of him in costume. If you look at it, it definitely looks different than the original series. It looks a little more modernized, but the Tick doesn't look like it has that bulk from the original comic or from the original show. Now, Amazon also has released a press statement saying what the show is about. An underdog accountant with zero powers who discovers that the city is being controlled by a global supervillain long thought dead. While trying to expose the evil plot, he crosses a path with none other than The Tick. The Tick will debut on Amazon on August 19th, and I'm waiting patiently for this to come out. Hopefully it does well. I'm also been looking forward to watching the Grand Tour, which is a return of Jeremy Clarkson, James May, and Richard Hammond back into the auto review entertainment genre. Moving on from TV, let's head to another part of entertainment, which is gaming. Longtime listeners will know that I have played Witcher 3. I adore the game. And one part of Witcher which really captured me was the card game Gwent. When I started playing, I generally don't have any interest in these little mini games, side games, but the moment I got into it, I found there's a fair amount of strategy involved. And being a fan of collectible card games like Magic the Gathering, it really it really brought out my deck building skills and really gave me a hunger for an actual Gwent game, something tangible you can hold on to and play with other people. While CD Projekt Red has not actually released or announced any plans to release a physical Gwent game, they have announced the development of a computer and console version. And it also looks like it might be PS4, Xbox One crossplay available, and PC crossplay available. Gwent, the Witcher card game, was announced at Microsoft's E3 press conference alongside with an open beta that is set to start in September. Now, you can sign up for the beta following the link on our website. I have signed up. You can, right now, the beta is for Xbox One and PC, though I expect other platforms to be available here at some point in the future. I'm really looking forward to playing it. I'm kind of curious to see how they handle the how you get new Gwent cards, if it's going to be kind of CCG-like where you buy boosters, or if they're just unlockables as game goes as you continue playing. Are you playing for ante, which means, do you have to ante out a random card, and then if you lose a card, or if you win, do you get that card from your opponent? So really, really, really interested in this. I know I've played some of the Magic computer card games when they first came out. Really wasn't too happy with those. It didn't quite have that Magic-y feel. But being that the Gwent game was developed specifically for the PC for the Witcher game, I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle that transition from just a mini game within The Witcher to an actual competitive type of game. Continuing on with Witcher 3 talks, one thing that's really tough for developers to do is the combat piracy. In order to do that, generally what they do is they load the game up with, or not just game, but other media, movies, music, things like that, with DRM. That way, it makes it more difficult for people to pirate that product. So, there's always been a couple ways that they have felt to stop them besides using DRM, and that is making a product that people want to own. And they do this either by going through and offering beautiful and ostentatious collector's editions stuffed with physical memorabilia that you just can't get when you pirate the game, or you make a product that is worth owning. Witcher 3 developer CD Projekt Red is a consumer darling, and that's for a good reason. Not only have they made one of this generation's finest and most expansive games, but they have also supported it with an almost unparalleled reverence for not just the game, but for its fans. They pay attention to the fans, they interact with the fans, and it just really helps bring that product to life. So I own Witcher on console. I've got a friend, Travis, who I've made comment a couple of times about in the past. He owns a copy not just for the console but also for the PC, so he has bought 2 copies. And anybody who I've talked to has played the game has really, really loved it. It's got a great story, and the open world concept really works with this. It's non-linear. You can go wherever you want. You can do whatever you want to do. When you're ready to continue the storyline, off it goes. This is how I wish they would have handled Fallout 4. Witcher 3 kind of ruined that a little bit for me when it came to Fallout 4's open world concept. Fallout 4 is still a fun game. It's a good game, but I think in terms of actual storyline and development, I think Witcher 3 beats it hands down. And I'm a huge, huge fan of the Fallout series, so that says a lot about the game. So if you haven't done it yet and you're interested, pick up a copy of The Witcher. And if you have done it and you're looking forward to the Gwent card game and you do manage to get into the beta, or if you get the card game when it comes out of beta, send me a message, let me know. I'd be happy to play some games. And the last things I want to cover here this week is, if you haven't done so, time is running out to upgrade to Windows 10 for free. A lot of people have been really hesitant. I have actually been using Windows 10 since pre-release. I was part of the technical preview, and I've been testing it for a while. I actually get early releases of their updates, and I actually like it. I went from Windows 7 to Windows 10. I did not worry about Windows 8 or 8.1. I never really liked the change to the Windows interface when they released Windows 8. Windows 10 brought back old elements of Windows 7, which I liked, and kind of modernized them with Windows 8. So it's kind of a blended experience. They're offering Windows 10 right now for free if you have a copy of Windows 7 and 8.1, but after July 29th, you're going to have to pay to get Windows 10. And Microsoft has been urging owners to take advantage of the free offer, and so far, 350 million people have decided to take the plunge into the next version of Windows. I would say, don't dawdle, give it a try. If you don't like it, you can always go back. You have that ability to do so, but don't wait. Waiting is going to cost you $120. So, one thing that Microsoft has been doing is they've been willing to bet you a free brand new Dell Inspiron 15 that they can upgrade your old PC to Windows 10 in the same day if you bring it into a Microsoft store. So the bet is that if you bring in your old PC to a answers desk at the Microsoft store, they will take care of the upgrade process for free and have your computer ready by the end of the day. If your computer is not ready by the end of the day, you'll get a free Dell Inspiron 15 laptop. That simple. Now, the small print on this is your old PC must be capable of running Windows 10, meaning it has to meet the minimum system requirements. You also have to check into the answer desk by noon local time for the bet to be valid. The offer is currently active and runs through the 29th of July or until supplies last. The deal is only available in the US, including Puerto Rico and Canada. Kind of interesting to see that they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. There's been a lot of complaints about people trying to upgrade and it not working. I've upgraded several computers to Windows 10 and have not had an issue. The people who have had problems are using Windows software that's out of date. So make sure you do all of your Windows updates, you're current on those, and then download and install Windows 10. You can either do this by physically downloading the media, burning it to a disk, or writing it to a thumb drive, booting up to your Windows client, and then doing the upgrade from there. Or you can just have it download and install in one shot. If anybody takes this challenge, please let me know. I'm interested to see how it goes and what your experience was like. I will definitely talk about it a little more in upcoming podcasts if I hear back from anybody. The last piece of news I have is deals with the Raspberry Pi. I just got a Raspberry Pi 3 here a couple weeks back. I have Octoprint on it, and I've been working on getting my two printers connected to it so I can do remote printing. Really, I've just been procrastinating, working on other projects, and that one just kind of fallen back to a back burner, but I plan on picking that up here probably in the next week or two and just finishing that right out. The makers of the Raspberry Pi have announced that a smaller version will go on sale here in a few months. They're developing a new version of what they call the Compute Module, a single board computer that plugs into a specific onboard memory slot. The new Pi will be just like a mini computer inside of a computer, though it will not come with a power supply. The Compute Module will have a similar circuitry to that of the Raspberry Pi 3, including a 64-bit ARM processor, but it will not have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is not an option on this guy. It'd be kind of hard to do. Having a little computer that sits inside of your computer with a little tiny wireless chip in there would be pretty difficult to get a decent wireless signal through your computer case. And like the Raspberry Pi 3, the new Compute Module will work with Linux and Microsoft Windows 10 Internet of Things Core. They are expecting to ship as soon as this quarter and cost as little as $24. Not bad. A Raspberry Pi costs you $35, and then if you want a case, if you don't 3D print one, and other things, you can be anywhere from $70 to $100, depending upon the things that you want to come with it. Memory card, power adapter, case, HDMI cord, etc. But all in all, it's a pretty neat little machine. And the $24 version, I'm curious to see what type of slot that they are talking about. It says that it's an onboard memory slot, so does it take up a RAM slot? Maybe. Follow the link on our website. Go check out the article. There are pictures of it there. Obviously, it does not look like a standard PC DIMM. It looks more like a laptop SO DIMM, but do not know how many pins it uses. There are some vague details that unfortunately they didn't cover. As always, we'd like to thank our fans and people who are listening to the podcast, those who've been telling people about it, trying to spread the word. We really appreciate it. For those of you who are listening and have not done so, please go out to our Twitter page at I'd Print That Pod. Give us a follow. Go out to SoundCloud and give us a subscribe there. And also go to our YouTube channel and give us a subscribe there. We will be posting content at least once a week. Trying to get the GoPro mount done up for the Meat Creator so I can start doing some time lapses. I do have all of the old podcasts queued up to be released. They're going to be released every other day. So this episode is going to come out on YouTube about the middle of August. So I'm releasing anywhere from 3 to 4 episodes a week, depending upon how the days fall. Every other day is a new episode. I'm adding those into the playlist as we go along. It's all scheduled out now, so there is no more actual backlog of work that needs to be done. It's just the scheduled releases on YouTube's side. Our Facebook page is fairly neglected. It's kind of like a ghost town. I'm not a huge fan of YouTube, or not a huge fan of Facebook, but I realize that it is one way that people can use to communicate with us. So I'm trying to keep up with the podcast's Twitter site and with Facebook, though at some point I might be looking for some kind of somebody to manage the social media side of things. That was something that Andrew took care of. He did a great job at it. I, on the other hand, I'm a crotchety old man, and I don't deal with that stuff. But all joking aside, I am working on it, though. Keep an eye open on the blog, and if I do decide that I need somebody to pick up that side of things, I will go ahead and make a posting there. As of this moment, I'm working on it. Please be patient. Aside from following us on social media, you can also go to Patreon and subscribe. Right now we have $1 donations per month, and we have $5 donations per month, which gets you a print of the month. I'm also looking at adding a intermediate step, something in like $2. If you want to give just a little bit more than $1, you can do that. Patrons not required. If you want to support us other ways, you can go to our website and buy 3D printing supplies. We have links to filaments, tools, and hardware. If there isn't anything that's listed there, let me know. I can go ahead and try and add links to that. It may take a couple of days, but anything that you buy, it goes through Amazon and gives us just a small kickback, like 4%. The more people buy, the better our percentage is for referrals. So if you decide that you want a couple rolls of filament, go for it. If you know anybody who's ordering filament or ordering other items, have them go through our website. It gives us a little bit just for the referral, and all this really helps support the podcast. Anything that you can do, if you're wanting to help, it goes towards these expenses. SoundCloud, mailboxes, any type of web hosting that we have. If we need to upgrade any of the hardware like microphones, lighting for time lapses, all this stuff is things that we could use money for to help improve. I have things that will kind of slap together, but if we can get professional quality gear here, we will use that, and that just makes it that much better. One thing we've always wanted to do is to do a video channel rather than just doing audio, and that means cameras, additional lighting, any type of set decorations, things like that. Anything that we can get helps move that forward and helps it become a reality. Besides that, I think I've rambled on enough for this week. Keep your questions and stuff coming. Really like hearing what people are doing. We'll be releasing the I'd Print That printable logo here to the wild soon, and I want to see some action shots. If you can download and put some action shots up, post them to Twitter, that'd be amazing. I would love to see them. Right now it's only going to be single color. I am working on a dual color version, and once it's done, I'll go ahead and get that picture of that posted and the model posted. Besides that, I'm Joe, and remember, if you can imagine it, you can print it.